Why was he estranged from his family because of this whole situation?
He has an older girlfriend. She's like 25 or 26.
This Kyle Filipowski situation is bizarre.
So this basketball star's babysitter turned girlfriend completely altered his NBA career. And yes, you heard that correctly. Look, I understand that this year's draft class doesn't have a Victor Wembanyama or a Brandon Miller or a Scoot Henderson. But for what this draft class lacks in depth and talent, it certainly makes up for with drama. And in this particular instance, I think we have one of the most bizarre stories that I have ever brought to you guys on this YouTube channel. So before we get to the content, there is a pretty good chance this video gets demonetized. We're currently on the grind to 1 million subscribers. We are 55,000 subscribers away from getting to that goal. So if you want to subscribe and turn on our notifications to help us get there, I'd really appreciate that. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Forgive me if I slur my words a little bit, guys. I am currently on 2 hours of sleep. This year's NBA draft wasn't supposed to be the deepest of NBA drafts, but it was supposed to be filled with high-end role players. Take a look at Zachary Risache, for instance. The man has several holes in his game. He's not really good at dominating the basketball, but he has tremendous two-way potential. He could definitely shoot the three, and if he adds some muscle onto his frame, then maybe he could be one of the better role players or even an all-star one day. And that's the #1 overall pick. The thing about this year's NBA draft is if you happen to be a player with a skill set that translates to today's NBA, then you should have no problem getting drafted. I mean, LeBron James's son got drafted, for crying out loud, but that could be because he's LeBron's son. But if you are a player that happens to be a 7-foot stretch four that plays for a prominent school like Duke University that averaged 16 points and 8 rebounds per game, that shot 35% from three and had a PER of 26, then you should have no problem getting drafted in this year's NBA draft. At the very least in the first round of the NBA draft. And typically, in the case of a player like Kyle Filipowski, that wouldn't be a problem. But here's the craziest part. Kyle Filipowski isn't your average NBA player. The moment he got drafted, listen to what Jonathan Givony had to say about him.
NBA teams are talking about the fact that they had question marks about his girlfriend being so much older than him. Why was he estranged from his family because of this whole situation? He apparently doesn't talk to his parents or his brother, and it's a very, very odd situation. I personally don't understand why it would cause him to drop like this into the second round. There are no question marks about his character, but NBA teams are talking about his nerves and his workouts weren't great, and when they asked him about this situation in interviews, the answers they got weren't satisfactory for them. So this Kyle Filipowski situation is bizarre. I think he's going to be one of the first players to hear his name called tonight regardless.
In the very beginning, we didn't really think much of this. I mean, okay, he has some family drama. Who doesn't have some family drama? I don't know anyone with the perfect family, and if you do, then damn, congrats on getting drafted to the Lakers, Bronny. But here's where it gets really strange. When Kyle Filipowski went undrafted in the first round, listen to what they had to say on Zach Lowe's podcast, The Low Post.
The workouts weren't great. People tell me there were question marks about the interviews. They said he was nervous. He didn't make shots at the pro day. What's going on with his girlfriend? This is all nonsense. It's hard to find a 7-footer like Kyle Filipowski who is this skilled. Somebody needs to draft him very early in the second round.
And here's the kicker. It's very rare for someone's off-the-court drama to sabotage them to this extent. But watch what they discuss afterwards.
I'm obviously out of the loop on what the young kids are talking about. What's going on with his girlfriend? You need to elaborate.
He has an older girlfriend. She's like 25 or 26, and people are like, "Oh, this is weird." And it's like, give me a freaking break, guys.
That's not that. What?
He doesn't talk to his parents. Oh
my God! I got to get this guy on the podcast. I got to get that.
Now look, I understand there's a lot of players to cover in the NBA draft. I could understand sitting there and saying,
"Oh, he doesn't talk to his parents. What's the big deal? Oh, he has a girlfriend that's 6 years older than him."
That's not that big of a deal. First First of all, I'm not pointing the blame finger at the Low Post for not doing their research and doing a deep dive on why Kyle Filipowski fell out of the first round, because there's so many players that you need to cover that there wasn't any strangeness at the time of this story, because a lot of this was brushed under the rug, as Kyle's family would say, and we're going to get to that in a sec. But the plot would thicken. You see, if you scroll down on this podcast clip on Twitter, you'd see some tweets from alleged members of Kyle Filipowski's family, and of which some really jarring statements would be made. Daniel Filipowski would say, "I'm Kyle's oldest brother. You all don't have a clue of the extent of the story that has to do with his girlfriend. There's a story that has been pushed under the table for nearly 2 years now." Daniel Filipowski was trying to reach out to Jonathan Gavoni so he could give the full story. Becky Filipowski would also tweet out saying, "You are opening a 2-year issue, and she is 28 years old with an endgame 3 years ago to have a diamond ring on her hand when Kyle left Duke. He was still in high school." Daniel Filipowski also mentions that he's having trouble messaging Jonathan Gavoni on his Instagram account. He doesn't know how to get in touch with him. But look up and read on Mormon grooming and brainwashing, and you'll find some introductory details in there to connect some dots into the story that is going on here. Now, of course, I did my absolute best to reach out to the Filipowskis on Twitter. I didn't really get anything. So if you guys want to juice up this tweet so maybe someone can see, although I'm not nearly as prominent as Gavoni, maybe one day we'll get there and we could at least get their story to a larger audience, which, by the way, is why I should probably make more of a push to get more Twitter followers so I could bring you guys these types of stories. So my bad, that's going to be more of an emphasis for me in the future. But we definitely did our digging here, and we found out this entire story. In the very beginning, Jonathan Gavoni thought that Kyle Filipowski's fiance was 25 years old, which, okay, it's a little strange.
Struggling with moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis? Talk to your doctor about #1 prescribed.
It's no Bill Belichick age difference with his girlfriend, but yeah, you don't typically see a 20-year-old dating a 25-year-old, but it's not the craziest thing. I mean, you can make an argument that they may have met in college or something like that, or I don't really know. But the crazy part about this is that's not what the age gap is at all. Kyle Filipowski's current girlfriend's name is Caitlin Hutchinson. She's an Alabama native, and you can see over here that she posted onto Instagram on May of 2015 that she was graduating in high school. And then on December 23rd, 2018, Caitlin Hutchinson is shown here with her family graduating from the University of Alabama. So if that's the case, she's not 25. It's more likely that she's 27 or 28. Now here's where it gets a little crazier. How did Caitlin and Kyle meet one another? Well, if you do some additional digging, you'll find this picture from 2017 with the young Kyle and his family. And in the center, you'll see Caitlin, who was their babysitter at the time. And it gets way worse. Because right when you think this story can't get even crazier, you could scroll down here and see a picture that these two took during Kyle Filipowski's high school prom 2 years ago on May 21st, 2022. And now this officially got weird, because if that's the case, Kyle was 17 years old at the time of this photo. Caitlin was probably 25 or 26. There's no way that this is the first time they met one another, because there's already images of them from way earlier. And apparently there is a now deleted comment on the prom photo from Hutchinson that said, "1 year with my favorite person," which means that Kyle and Caitlin would have started dating when he was 16 years old and Caitlin was 24 or 25. So Caitlin's plan was very obvious. According to Daniel Filipowski, Caitlin was utilizing Mormon grooming and brainwashing techniques in order to, well, allegedly, groom Kyle Filipowski. Part of this brainwashing involved telling Kyle Filipowski to cut off all ties from his family. Why? Because his family, who clearly loves him, would probably say,
"Yo, Kyle, this woman is after your money, and you need to stay away from her because she's predatory."
Caitlin could sit there and manipulate a person that she's known since he was 16 years old. It's truly an insane story, and it's a really sickening story. And the worst part of all is Kyle Filipowski got drafted by the Utah Jazz, which is absolutely insane. But the craziest part of all is apparently the Utah Jazz's general manager looked into the story, and for the most part, they just paid attention to what he brings to the table as a basketball player. As a second-round pick, this is not that much of a risk to take, obviously, but so far, Taylor Filipowski, which is the brother of Kyle, confirms via Instagram that the Twitter accounts of Daniel and Becky are real. Caitlin Hutchinson, Kyle's girlfriend, 7 to 8 years older, is not a blood cousin nor babysitter, but close family friend, often referred to as a cousin, who's known Kyle much longer than their relationship dating back to high school. This date from 2017 was when Kyle was 13 and Caitlin was 20. It's a throwback Thursday, and how long Caitlin has been allegedly grooming Kyle is unknown. Taylor would then say in this message that for the last 2 years or so, he was a senior in high school and she's about 8 years older than him, give or take. She flew up from Alabama or some southern state where her family lived and would catch flights to Massachusetts to see him play basketball games, till she started hanging out after the game, staying around for the weekends, etc. Then he went to Duke and she followed. They got an off-campus place, I heard, and he stopped hanging out with friends / the team, etc. This is certainly an insane story, guys, and there's a lot out there. A lot of the sources I'm not necessarily sure are legitimate sources. Some of these could be rumors, but regardless, it's a crazy story in of that I felt like I should bring to you guys. But this isn't the only drama from this year's NBA draft. Bronny James was finally drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers.
This nigga sound like a hater.
Breakdown to that. I'll leave a link to that in the end screen. I'll meet you guys over there. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.
Everybody wants to be with an older girl, I guess. Damn. Family just sound like she hating. They hating it, so. Let's see. I gotta figure out this one. Boom.